I'm Joe Kramer, composer of Mission Impossible Rogue Nation. Your mission, should you choose to accept it, is to listen to this podcast from the Geekcast Radio Network.
You're tuned in to Steve Megatron on Altered Geek Unlimited.
Hello and welcome to Altered Geek episode 159. I'm your host Steve Megatron Phillips, and joining the panel tonight is
Doug Abel
from Talking About My Generation.
Yes. Sorry.
Just double checking. My brain is not fully at 100% capacity, so I've been inundated with school projects. Well, the next one is, and I haven't figured out what I'm doing yet. It probably won't hit me until about 4 days before it's due, and then I'll have to figure it out. But because that's what happened last time. And for those that don't know that are listening, I did a GCRN Top 100 video. We had to do a promo video for an event. Could be real, could be fake. Everybody in class was doing something local. Everybody's video was notoriously bad. And it I'm not trying to be mean about it, but like the edits.
This part has been edited. Ha ha ha! You'll never know what was actually here.
Well, because I cringe when I watch people's when I see mistakes and things. So it irks me, and even if it's my own, I will cringe, because I figured out how to do lighting effects and different things in After Effects, and when I started the program almost 4 years ago, I used After Effects, I used a teleprompter, I used a green screen, I used various things, and I edited this video for the intro class, and I did this basically a Kamehameha blast, and it took everything in my power to figure out how to use it for never having used Final Cut Pro or After Effects at the time. I finally figured out how that works, in a sense. And having edited the short film last year kind of helped with this too. But I'm done with my tutorials, which everybody else is still doing them. And I was watching these promo videos, and I was glad that I did what I did, but the teacher had two minor nitpicks, and I fixed them in the class and then resubmitted it. But I originally stood in front of my own personal green screen, but I wasn't looking at the camera. I was reading the text, but I wasn't fully focused on the camera at home. So I edited my animated version of myself talking, which meant I had to physically drag this thing frame by frame and move the mouthpiece or change the mouthpiece between 9 different variations that I had created, which was insane and difficult and time consuming. So for this 45-second video, it took me about 4 hours to make, which is about typical in filmmaking. I mean, you got to consider, 2-hour movie takes them.
Well, yeah, that's like doing stop motion.
Yeah, and that's basically what I did with the mouth. So I synced it up with my vocals, which were thankfully good from the physical video recording. But I think it's also because I used my actual Yeti microphone for the audio. And so anyways, I did that, and I submitted it. Teacher was like, that was awesome. I really don't have very many critiques. Just fix these 2 things, and then you're done. And then, of course, while we're critiquing other people's, because he's doing this publicly in class to everyone, I'm sitting there, trying not to be mean. He's critiquing, and then he's asking me for my feedback, because I'm the only one that understands the software really well.
Oh, man.
And I'm like, I would, and then after a while, I was just like, I would do this, and this guy had a black background on this video, for for the ending, and he had images with white, they were in white squares around it, and the teacher's like, I would do something to kind of like, I don't know, even out the squares, I says, or make the background white so that the white around the border around the images, don't show up. And he's like, or that. And because like the graphic designer in me is like coming out, and then various effects that could have been done, or text effects, or things that people were just blatantly not knowing what to do, and they're supposed to be like almost done with the program by this point, and it was just making me cringe anyway. So yeah, getting back to the point at hand, I don't know what I'm doing for this. I have to do a 30-second basically PSA promo spot, and I haven't exactly figured out what I'm going to do it on, but we can use like canned footage from stuff. So somebody gave me an idea of doing like please stop brain injury for reality television. And showing the Kardashians.
Pretty much.
Are you kidding me?
Oh.
Why? I thought they were just going to have clowns go attack her for the rest of the season.
Well,
since that seems to be the big thing now.
Well, they were saying on the radio today about that. They were telling people in San Diego, can we just like get off the clown thing, because creepy clowns need to like not come out. That's it. Until
they get shot because somebody's sneaks up on the wrong person.
Hey, I already said
they killed the clown people, man. It's racist. They kill clowns.
I already said that if I see a clown, I'm running its ass over. Because if anybody says anything to me about it, I'm going to say, well, what the hell? I thought it was tripping and having, I thought I was dreaming and that it was it. That's all I can think of.
Or that you're thinking that they were, a serial killer.
Yeah, John Wayne Gacy all over again.
Well, you got to catch them all.
Oh, man. Oh, man.
Bad pun. Yes. So, yeah. So I'm thinking about doing something like that, because he's going to show it publicly anyway for critiquing purposes. I royally enjoy being a pain to this teacher, because he gets my humor. Because like he had the funny thing is he's made all the classes that I've taken other than the cinema production class online or hybrid classes since I took them. So like you physically don't have to show up for them anymore, per my suggestions and other students. But so like I'll pick a theme, like the screenwriting class. I wrote my own novel, or I wrote my screenplay for the characters I created during the superhero Smithsonian class. So I used that as an entire theme for the whole semester. I wrote nothing but stuff for that storyline. So I wrote the script for it on purpose, and then which irritated him to no end, because I was supposed to write separate pieces that were not supposed to be reused later, and I reused all 3 pieces in this script because I like to do that. And then the previous semester, I chose, it was like media aesthetics. I chose Robert Downey Jr. films for the entire semester.
Oh, man.
Because he was choosing Jason Bateman movies for the entire semester.
Oh, jeez.
So I was having fun. Well, he had like Juno, and he had like Arrested Development, and he had something else with Jason Bateman in it. So I did like Iron Man 3 and Tropic Thunder and Sherlock Holmes Game of Shadows. Just because those are all movies I don't have to watch to remember anything from. So it was easy. But yeah, so that's like the next project. Then I think I got to do a 45-second video of something after that, and then another 45-second video. Oh, I got to do a TV show, fake TV show promo, which would be easy enough because I could do the fake like text thing like they did for Supergirl on the CW, and then call it a day. So that wouldn't be that difficult for me. But I got it. Yeah. I got it. I'm gonna I'm gonna do an Animaniacs skit. Good idea, bad idea.
Oh, there you go. Yes.
Good idea, and then show like Shark Tank, and then bad idea, Kardashians.
Oh.
Good idea, Pokemon Go. Bad idea, clown people.
Yes.
Oh, that will work so great. I gotta write that down before I forget.
Yeah. There are pluses and minuses to that, and I'll speak out on the other side only because my niece, good God, she's going to be 16 in a few weeks.
Wow.
Yeah, trust me. That's when I met my wife. She was like 3 or 4 years old, and now to think that she's 16 now, it's like, oh my God.
That kind of reminds me. I got a niece that's 12, and she wasn't even like thought of or born at the time when I got with my wife.
Bart, what are you doing? Taking over the school with all the kids inside. What? I'm telling Mom. Great, you can call her from the closet phone. Hello, Mom. You won't believe what Bart's doing. There really is a phone in there?
Well, that kind of happened with me. I didn't really have junior high. For me, it was I was at a school that was K through 8, and then high school was 9 through 12, and just that was how it was. My niece, I will say, I guess it depends upon the student as to, it depends upon the type of kid. My poor niece, had a very hard time with going to school at her public schools, and her parents actually pulled her out, and it worked out to be a good thing that they pulled her out because she was having problems with the teachers. The kids were relentlessly teasing her, and it was just, she's like, I can't do this. And her parents said, you know what, you're absolutely right. You don't have to. And they pulled her out, and she has been absolutely wonderful with being homeschooled. And it's really kind of funny to see her. Like, when we went out to go visit her in October of last year, she had school, and she would sit there, and she'd get on her computer and sit there in class and answer all the questions. And it's basically like being in a classroom, except, she's able to raise her hand and ask questions and whatnot, and the teacher's there doing a whole video thing. But she doesn't have to deal with the interactions with some of the kids, teasing her, pulling her hair, poking fun of her, anything like that, commenting on what clothes she's wearing, anything like that. So
When will this insanity end?
Well, since there was actually another thing I wanted to bring up with the schooling part, some, as far as like the homeschool, I kind of get a little bit of what they're talking about, but I think that in some cases, I think it can be better. Kind of like you said, Doug. But there's actually a lot of programs for parents that homeschool, especially in my area, that it gives them a chance to go on like field trips with other kids and kind of socialize throughout the week. And so you can actually still give them homeschooling, but still give them some interactions without like totally alienating them from other kids, which can be good.
Awesome, right? So that's awesome that they do that,
And to me, like I'm kind of for the homeschooling thing because I kind of had a rotten time throughout school, so I didn't really. And especially with all the crap that goes on in the school systems now, I just don't want my kids subjected to that. It's not the teachers; it's the other students. So,
yeah,
and a lot of it's like the things that they teach or don't teach. So it's the system itself. It's not like the teachers, because I had great teachers. I just the rest of it was miserable. So this week's topic, funny enough, is from Scanner51. He says, "Hey guys, as you know, I'm a big fan of the show on the network. So the other day I was online as normal and I got to thinking, when was the first time you became aware of the internet? Or when did you first learn of the internet?" He says, "I can tell you when I first became aware, it was December 93, January 94 on a PBS show called Ghost Rider, episode called "Who is Max Mouse?" and the show the kids and us at home. He says, I was 11 at the time, got a quick dumb-down lesson on computers, hackers, and the internet, how modems talk to other computers over something called cyberspace. Now, I know that was the first time I'm sure I'd ever heard that word. Also, one more thing, in the first Mission Impossible movie, Agent Hunt deals with someone online called Max. I'm convinced this was ripped off from this show.
Wow.
We don't know where he came from.
He just showed up one night.
What is that thing?
He's not an alien.
What is he?
We think he might be a ghost.
Be serious.
He wants to be friends with us. But he can't hear and he can't talk. He can read anything.
He takes letters and he writes with them.
We're the only ones who can see him.
That means he wants you on the team.
You have to promise never to tell anybody about Ghost Rider.
Hey, cool.
We're the Ghost Rider team.
We check our clues and solve mysteries.
He's a ghost, and he writes to us. Ghost Rider.
Ghost Rider. What a trip.
I think he's talking about the Max part, like, which is entirely possible. I don't know one way or the other, but when were you guys first aware of the internet?
Well, it depends upon what you want to call the real internet.
Are you talking about the alt?
Well, no. I mean, because there were like BBSs and rings of BBSs that would talk with each other and upload message boards back and forth. But for me, I think probably I would say maybe like when AOL first announced that they were hooking up with Prodigy and CompuServe with doing the whole public internet thing. And I want to say that was probably back in like 91-ish, 92. Because it was when I was in high school. And I remember getting on, we had 4 computers that were Macs at our school's library. And I remember using the Mac, and my dad gave me the original Mosaic version 1.1 on a floppy disk. Yeah. And I used that to go online. I loaded it onto the Mac, used it to go online and look at Disney. And I remember Disney was one of the very first websites that I was able to look up on it. And they didn't have any pictures. It was all text, but it was Walt Disney Company, and they had stock prices. And I remember thinking, wow, that's really cool that I can do this. How long before they start putting pictures up of Mickey Mouse and, all this other stuff? And look where they are now. So, yeah, that was probably my first real kind of exposure with it. I had Prodigy, and then I ended up having AOL for a short period of time, which kind of was my introduction into it. Other than that, I really didn't get on the internet until like 95, 96. So.
Next.
You've got mail.
You sound like the AOL guy.
That's horrible.
And how you said it was monotone, so it.
Oh yeah.
But so for me, I remember the internet back in about January of '96. My dad had just got a Pentium 133.
Oh.
And I remember because that was the second computer we had in the household. And that was the only internet-capable one. We had a 486 DX4100 that were for us, and he had that computer. Came with Windows 95? Yeah. And so we had this thing called the Internet Ramp, which was actually local to Flint, Michigan. And I used to think that the site was kind of cool, but That was the early days of the internet. They eventually got bought out by Earthlink, which once it got bought out by Earthlink, it was garbage. So yeah, we had the internet. They used to give you like a megabyte of free space or whatever. You could create your own web page, which was hilarious back then. And
now you're bringing back memories of GeoCities.
Funny you should say that. That was my first experience building websites. I had a Transformers site based off of another Transformers site. And then I learned how to do, placement of HTML. I learned some Java stuff. I learned some graphics, which were garbage. Microsoft Paint at its finest. And I thought they were great. I look at anything I've made pre 2 years ago, and I'm like, that's garbage. That's garbage. That's garbage. Yep. I steal aesthetics from it, but I don't. I do look at it at the context of the time, but I look at it and I'm like, that's garbage. So I'm very critical of my own work. But the first thing I remember checking out when I got the internet, though, was before I started messing with GeoCities. I had, for one, my dad and I, because Yahoo really was starting around then. We kind of used it a little bit, but it really wasn't all that helpful. The internet was very text-based. You had a few sites, like somehow we stumbled on MTV and got Beavis and Butthead, and we used, because the hand, when you'd click on things, would have that little goofy-looking, pointing up that it still has. My dad was like, look, I can pick his nose. And so because it was, you click on it, the image goes somewhere else. And so, like, he would just pick his nose, and I thought it was hilarious because I was, like, 9 or 10 at the time. And so I thought it was hilarious. And then...
yeah, you're doing the whole... yeah, cool.
Yeah, I used to do a really good impression of that through 7th grade, and then it kind of, like, I snapped at some point, and then I lost it. And I've never attempted it since because I've never cared to.
I can't say you.
I used to do it quite a bit. I used to pretend I was crazy, but so yeah, I looked that up. I looked up a lot of Star Trek stuff, original series. I used to look up, like the Enterprise. I used to look up the shows. That's how I found out about the animated series. Star Trek, surprisingly, was pretty easy to find when the internet hit, and I think that's because a lot of nerdy people were on the internet more so than what you have now of everybody being on the internet. So it was kind of right up my alley with that, but I didn't really find a whole lot until later years. I think 98, 99, where Microsoft had their own gaming. It was called the Microsoft Zone. Their own gaming center where you could log in. You could play chess with people on the internet. Because I did that for a little bit, and then that got old, and I had this the very first Beast Wars game for PC. Wow. You could multiplayer on that, and I played that on the Microsoft Gaming Zone on dial-up.
Oh,
and I had my dad's internet wrapped up. I mean, granted, we had the 56K modem, so we had 56K internet. We'd get about 50K, and I played the Beast Wars game online, and I was like the master of that game. It was only a 4-player battle every time, which compared to like 64-person battles now on like Battlefield, I'm like, yeah, this is totally inferior. But I was so good at that. I used to get so hopped up on caffeine, like I was like jittery and shaking like for hours. It was remarkable I survived it, but yeah, I used to do that, and then do the GeoCities thing and take 8 hours to download a new version of Internet Explorer or a video on 56K modem.
Oh man, you're bringing back all sorts of memories now.
It's just showing our age. I mean,
well,
we're all
Well, it's like, it's the fact that we know what a dial-up modem even sounds like.
Well, it's funny because you show, like, for instance, my kids, are never going to know what, a corded telephone is, or, well, we have books that are hand-me-downs, and they have pictures of these things, and the kid is like, "What's that? What's that?" And then I, of course, I'm teaching him. I'm like, "That's,
Just let Uncle Brian teach your kids, Steve. I mean, he's got everything when it comes to old technology."
You're not wrong.
Oh.
He has a lot of old computers. He has an 8-track. He has a cassette player. He has, like, sorry, I've got gnats around my house. I just caught one. So, yeah, my brother collects all kinds of stuff in that realm. I have no nostalgia for old technology. I want the newest. If I can afford it, I can have it. I do not want to keep old stuff.
There are limits.
It's kind of that way for toys for me too now, but yeah, he pretty much has anything that you could think of.
Oh man,
pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
back in my day, we had scotch for. Oh, I'm sorry, wrong stuff. But yeah, so I just kind of, at this point, it's funny to try and explain this stuff to my kid, because he's like, I don't know what that is. I gave him my old flip phone, and he's like, what's this? I'm like, it's a phone, because he sees this with, what's a modern phone now, so.
Oh man, that's making me feel really old.
And it's like the new GeoCities is WordPress.
Yeah, you're right.
I mean, basically, I loved GeoCities back in the day, and I love WordPress now. I don't like to have to hand code. I know how to. I don't want to.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing now, too, is so much of this technology has gotten so common that even a novice on anything can pretty much find a service or a way to do it themselves without having to pay somebody.
Yeah.
And that's with anything. Because I used to use, like, when I needed text that had some kind of an effect to it, I went to flamingtext.com. And then when I needed, like, guest book or a poll, I would go to BraveNet. Like, all these old sites, or Java File, all these old sites that nobody uses anymore. But if you were somebody that built websites back then, they're like, oh, I remember that. Like, if you go back and look at I still know, this is ridiculous and it's sad, but I still know my GeoCities addresses.
Oh, jeez.
So if you punch them in archive.org, it will still pull up the site. I had a Dragon Ball Z website, and I had a Transformers website. And what's sad is I know the GeoCities one was, because you could use your screen name, geocities.com/whatever it was. Well, when I had the Transformers site, this is really going to date me. You had to choose a category of where to put it.
Oh God, yes, I remember this.
You remember that?
Yes.
So you want to hear what my address was? Because I remember that too, and it's from '98. So before Yahoo owned GeoCities. Page Builder. That was such a wonderful tool. It was geocities.com/timesquare/corridor/1815/main.html.
Oh, wow.
And that's how you had to get to my website.
Yeah.
And then when I had, like, top cities and stuff like that, because GeoCities didn't give me enough space for my sites anymore, and it was like 150 megabytes, I was like, oh, this is awesome. It was like, I think it was, what were my sites at the time? I had an emulation site, I had a Dragon Ball Z site, I had a Transformers site, and then I had, like, a main site that tied them all together. And I always had them all connected, but my Dragon Ball Z site eventually became my main site. It was just ridiculous the amount of sites I had at the time, which kind of isn't really that much different than now. My site, StephenCPhillips.net. I don't have Predacon Empire, but I basically merged it with Transformers Network to create the TransformersNetwork.com. So I'm not the only head webmaster there, and then I kind of run thisweekingeek.net. So you could almost say that I'm entirely too busy than I need to be.
Jesus.
I think I'm crazy.
Oh,
they
man.
need your love connections, so you just didn't pay them.
Yeah. Oh, Jesus. I will agree with that 110% because
Unsolved mysteries.
well, that's not quite true because my wife did live in San Francisco. Yes, I will agree with that. Oh,
Well,
God, yes.
It's gotten worse, and it's gotten easier to get worse. Because like back in the day, like we didn't have YouTube. We had like stupidvideos.com, and we had
no, we had
World.
There you go.
eBom's World, and they're still around.
Oh yeah.
eBom's World, albinoblacksheep.com, which is what took most of the people from eBom's World after eBom's World bombed with people. I was wondering where that came from.
At Delta, we loves us some flying, and it be showing like a motherfucker.
Well, you can find all that on YouTube now, but there was this, because I used to use that in my my skill center classes, like eBom's World, Albino Black Sheep, and this was like in 2003, 2004. And I used to use those sites as stupid videos because they had like Trunk Monkey and they had
oh God,
which were
now
hilarious.
you're bringing back memories now.
Then they had like, this is the Earth. What a beautiful Earth it is, and or like they had this dancing cats video, which to this day it still makes me laugh, which is just ridiculous. It goes, cats, I'm a kitty cat, and I dance, and I dance, and it's just a black background and this cat that somebody just rotates back and forth, and then they just dance it across the screen. And I showed it to my son when he was like a year and a half. Thought it was hilarious. Show it to my my now youngest son. He thinks it's hilarious. So it gives me new life in some of those because it's pretty clean, so I can use that. But like there was like on eBom's World, I used to watch this guy called Frederick Fox, and who used to do some weird crap. I used to watch. I know they had like, and this was like other sites, but they had like Homestar Runner and like all these other.
Oh God.
Come here, you funny little
Strong Bad. Yeah.
Strong Bad. Which, funny thing is, Strong Bad, if you ever look at a Buick Verano's taillights, it looks like Strong Bad's face is in the back of the trunk.
Yes. Now
because I think that every time I see one, I'm like, hey, it's Strong Bad.
Oh, man.
And I'm not even kidding.
Yeah. Now that you say that, I can totally see it. Oh,
yeah,
man.
they used to have so many crazy videos online. They had like Sonic versus Mario videos. Can't remember. It was like Razorick.com, which is ridiculous that I remember the name of the site. I wonder if it still goes. It does still work.
Oh, Jesus.
Old Flash animations. Yeah, this is from back in the day because it's got like a death battle basically of Mario versus Sonic, and then they got like a bunch of Charles Bronson videos, or not Charles Bronson, Dennis Farina. Yeah, that's ridiculous. That these even still work. But like I used to watch a lot of these. I would almost dare people to go to these old sites like eBaum's World or Albino Black Sheep and Stupid Video and Razorick just to see. Well, not even that. Like just to see some of these stupid videos and see how much different it is from YouTube now. Just to make a comparison, because I almost. Because I almost wonder, about that, how similar it is from back then to now. Just it's become more common.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I was just sitting here thinking, I'm like, man, because I'm remembering all these little things here. The videos being, the videos, they kind of blew up. eBaum's World and so forth. But I remember seeing just all sorts of crazy stuff with people putting things together with. I remember one of the very first videos I ever saw online as being, you guys remember the TV show Cops, right?
Yep.
Everybody's seen it. Yes, Troops.
Yep. My uncle showed me that.
Oh, man. I thought that was the best thing. And all I could think of was, how the hell did these guys put this thing all together like this? I mean, they were doing it in an age when, I'm sitting here thinking, how did they digitize it? And that was kind of a... Wow, I gotta learn how to do this sort of stuff. And I've grown up here in Southern California for pretty much all my life.
Every day,
and I've done the Universal Studios tour and seen all the behind the scenes stuff and how they've done a lot of this stuff. And I've always thought that was really cool. And when I saw Troops, I kind of went, "Oh my God, I have to do this sort of stuff. This is what I want to do with my life." And unfortunately, it's never come to that. But
see, the thing is,
the fact that I'm seeing videos, and now I'm realizing, now in 2016, going, I can do all this stuff. I could conceivably make a motion picture, a full-length motion picture on my home computer here now, and actually put it out there. Would it be good? Probably not. But
don't click on that link till later.
I'm afraid.
Just warning. No, there's nothing wrong with it. It's a video on eBaum's or Albino Black Sheep. It's by this guy Lemon Demon that did the Ultimate Showdown. And it's got like every character you can ever think of in a death battle to the end. And it's they even get like Chuck Norris and Optimus Prime and Batman and Abraham Lincoln and yeah, well. He takes out Batman.
Damn you, Seth Graham.
Yeah. But like this video's it's pretty good. I remember this one of the most from that time. Yeah, it's crazy the amount of stuff on the internet that's changed and then not. Cuz some of this has just evolved like the old Flash games and everything that used to be out that were huge.
Oh, well, my mom, I remember her big thing when she first got onto the internet. First thing, the reason that we got cable internet was her being able to load BeanieBabyWorld.com.
Nice.
And Yeah, yeah. My mother was a Beanie Baby addict. So there was that, and then her going and playing all the PopCap games. You know, the Bookworm. She actually signed up for Pogo.com, and yeah, you know that should tell you something right there. There's all sorts of Flash games and stuff there. Well, I think it was Flash at that point.
Yeah,
but
Flash has been around. It was Macromedia owned it back
right.
in the 90s and early 2000s, and then Adobe bought them out around 2005.
Yeah, that's right, because it was Macromedia Shockwave Flash, and then they dropped the Shockwave and went to straight Flash and Adobe Flash, and now it's a piece of crap.
Well, actually, they're both still around.
Yeah,
Flash and Shockwave are two separate.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I still think it's a piece of crap software.
Yeah, they're all a piece of crap. That's why. Did you know Adobe actually dropped Flash and more or less recreated it as an HTML5 alternative, but they renamed it something else. Like it's still Flash, but you don't need a plugin to use it.
Oh, that's got to be so much better.
Yeah, I mean, they're still using the actual Flash player, but their software, like they no longer sell the Adobe Flash to actually make Flash videos. It's something else now, because I was doing research on Macromedia software, and Adobe's essentially murdered it all.
Well, that thing was a huge resource hog to begin with. I mean, let's look at all the Facebook games that you'd play and how much that used Flash. You could actually hear. I remember a buddy of mine. You've talked with him, Mike Stephen Ring. His wife. Yes. Oh yeah. Oh, you'd have to have a definitely a adult warning on the language, especially if he starts talking about Flash. Because I remember him telling me that he bought his wife a computer, and she had to have he'd put it on, and she would immediately go to play Restaurant City on Facebook, and he could hear the fans all spin up so that they could cover the usage of the hard drive and the CPU and all this crap for Flash. Oh, sounds like I got to get on and play.
You remember Elf Bowling?
Oh,
I remember the first time I ever played that. I played the first three. My dad had actually found them online, and they were basically a Flash game, but it was still hilarious.
Oh, yeah.
They later translated it to Game Boy Advance games, but man, that was because they used to laugh at you or pull their pants down and shake their rears at you and stuff. And
yep.
I liked the first Elf Bowling because if you hit the ball just right, you could make it bounce off the rail, and it would jump out, and you could hit a deer right in the head and knock him out.
Yes. My uncle was really good at that, and he would purposely shoot it so it would do gutter balls just to hit the deer. And then he said that there was something else that you could do where if you hit a certain amount of deer, like Santa would show up or Rudolph or something like that would show up. And it was like, wow, you've taken that much time to figure this out from a game like that.
See, I've never hit that many, but I think you must have to, because it resets after every level. You lose all the stuff on the side, so I'm not sure how you would even accomplish that, but still.
Yeah.
But then there was Elf Bowling 2, where you're on the boat, and you could rock the boat around, and you had to try and Santa would basically pull on the elves' underwear and launch them across the boat.
Jeez.
And then if you hit it too hard, they would fly off the end, and a shark would eat them.
I never saw that.
And if you hit it just right, you could make the elf launch completely off the boat and go onto a glacier across the map.
Oh my god!
Which I also like to do. It was pretty funny to make the shark eat. Yeah. Oh.
Oh my God.
I had that too.
Oh, yes.
If we really want to go back just a little bit before the internet, kind of. Well, not quite that far back, but I used to run a BBS way back in the early 90s. And one of the things that I had on my BBS was these things called door games. And basically you would go in and you'd play things like Legend of the Red Dragon or Trade Wars. And I'm sure that there are people listening to this and going, "Oh my God, I remember this shit." Excuse me. I remember this stuff. But they're going to be listening to it and going, "Oh my gosh." Well, I had one game called Barney Stein. And basically it was you kill Barney all these different ways. You'd have the kids, you'd like give them pot or you'd give them drugs and they would get high and they'd go after Barney and they'd like beat Barney up with a bat or they'd do all sorts of stuff. Yeah, like you'd have to do all these things. Here, feed them ganja brownies. And, yeah, you'd have the kids tripping up. Yeah, all sorts of crazy stuff like that. And I'm going, oh my God. So as you're saying this, it's bringing that back in my mind.
And tequila shots.
Aspirin?
Oh, no, my Lanta.
Are you mocking me?
How rude. No, I need my Mylanta.
Yeah.
Speaking of things that have become terrible, I was looking on E-Bomb's World and I found like soundboards.
Oh.
And I was like, okay. And then so I was clicking and then I found this one that says Krispy Kreme soundboard. You know that guy that did the rapping and he named himself Krispy Kreme a few years back? Funny story about that. You remember when Ray William Johnson actually used to do the Equals 3 program on YouTube and review YouTube videos? Well, I was watching it. I started watching it probably about, 4 or 5 years ago. And so he did this particular review on this guy called Krispy Kreme, and he was rapping and everything else. Well, a few months go by, because I work at the car dealership, one of the guys at work said, "You guys got to watch this video." And he's like, this guy that's doing it is actually best friends with his son, who's actually in the video as like background, just moving, not really saying anything. And the kid is actually a native of Burton, Michigan, which is actually just like right by Flint, Michigan. And I'm like, oh wow, and he made this garbage, and but he's been featured on like all these like viral shows from being terrible. Oh, that's just ridiculous. I wasn't sure if the guy was actually BSing me because he's a storyteller, but the guy at work, but wow.
2 girls and 1 cup.
Well, it sounds like they're sharing a drink. That seems responsible.
Oh, Lord, they ain't sharing no drink. Edna, look away.
What? Ah!
I'm trapped in the dark web. I'm here forever. Don't you forget about me.
Oh, man, you had to go there.
Thankfully, I've never watched that video, but people have tried. I know what the connotations are, and I know what happens. I've never seen the video, nor do I care to. But I've had people try and trick me to go look. Never worked, but...
Yeah. I just refuse. It's one of those things. Yeah, I don't need to see that. Thank you very much.
I'd rather watch a crazy Charlie Sheen on the internet talking about tiger blood than Adonis DNA.
That guy.
So.
Yeah.
It's funny to see the amount of level of stupid that is on the internet. And the misinformation and the terrible articles that are clickbait that purposely give you misinformation, but because the headline looks great and the image entices you, you click on it, which is probably why I'm not rich. Because I'm not a douchebag.
Where are my clothes?
Nuts! Nuts! Get your nuts! We got all kinds of nuts. Brazil nuts, walnuts. Get your hands off my nuts.
Speaking of transformations that have nothing to do with that, only you would remember that. Only you can prevent forest fires. That's what she said. So we got to see images for Logan.
Yeah.
With Wolverine's hand, claw with scars on it, a little kid's hand, which Ryan Reynolds promptly said, what's he doing holding Deadpool's hand? And somebody managed to take a screenshot of Deadpool with his tiny hand and made it look like Wolverine's holding his hand. But you get to see the really old-looking Charles Xavier. Where they've got him with all the liver spots and the crazy hair.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Well, they made him look like almost like his All Good Things or Inner Light version of, except better cosmetics for that. And then basically they've turned Wolverine into Xavier's glorified babysitter. But Wolverine is supposed to, because the directors leaked like pieces of the script on purpose. Basically, it's going to feature Mr. Sinister and his corporation. And Wolverine's healing ability is like almost non-existent. Like he's got it, but it barely works, and he suffers from chronic pain. So he drinks a lot. While babysitting Xavier, who's like unable to do anything on his own for the most part. And so
he's a giant alcoholic now, which is sad.
Yeah, so Wolverine is basically going to go back on the tirade against Sinister's corporation because they're using mutants. Because I guess they're saying that mutants are rarely born anymore in this future version of the universe. When they're dying off, there's less and less of them being born just on their own. So when they are born, Sinister's taking them and turning them into weapons. So that's where, and if you remember in previous films of this universe, they took a vial of Wolverine's blood, so they're going to use that to create X-23, so they can have the female Wolverine, so they don't have to recast Jackman's version of Logan, which I think is kind of smart doing that.
Hey, bub, I keep telling you, don't call me Wolvie! Snicked.
Well, I think the problem is we've been spoiled with the quality that Marvel's put out, and everybody's comparing every superhero property to that. And I think, honestly, the only thing that's even come close is Daredevil. Or not Daredevil, Deadpool.
Yeah.
As far as film, like in keeping to like the uniform, the style, the characterization, like keeping all of it very close knit to the comics. He's the only one that they've managed to do that with. Whereas, like, you look at DC and nobody knows where they're going. I mean, don't get me wrong, I've enjoyed the stuff, but it's not been the same kind of enjoyable as I got with Deadpool. And then even pretty much anytime Jackman shows up in any X-Men movie, I'm good with it. Because he had a small bit for about 4 minutes in Apocalypse, which essentially showed how he gets out of the Weapon X program.
Okay.
So I don't know if either of you have seen the movie.
Not yet. It's one of those things that it just came out on iTunes, and I'm debating as to whether or not I want to rent it or. I don't know.
There's aspects of it that are good. I think Apocalypse is kind of very gimmicky and not as cool as they make him out to be.
Okay.
But I would say the people because he's got, Magneto, he's got Storm, he's got, Psylocke, or I think that's who that is.
Psylocke, Jubilee, and all that.
Yep. So that he's got some of them on his squad, and then basically you've got, like Cyclops, Jean Grey, Nightcrawler. Basically, the young guard with Mystique are having to save the old guard of your Xavier, your Beast, Cyclops' older brother. So you're having the young guard save the old guard basically through the entire film, which it's a passing of the torch in a lot of ways, but it also explains why Xavier's bald. And a lot happens. I mean, it's not as bad as what I thought it was going to be, but it's not
great.
No, to me, it felt like Apocalypse, Civil War, and Batman v Superman. I was watching the same movie over and over all summer.
Oh man.
It was, but again, I felt like I was watching heroes beating heroes like all summer, whereas like Deadpool was like the only original movie I had to watch besides like Star Trek.
Old gag, new twist.
No, I would agree with you there, but I think all the Captain America movies have been better than the Avengers or like any of the other standalone movies in recent years. They're making a sequel to it, right? And Shatner's gonna play Two-Face.
Oh, jeez. Oh man.
Batman will win. They're the same age, but it's awesome that they've got, and I'm kind of happy about that. I can't wait to see it. But it's awesome that they've brought back the fun feeling and the kept true to the original '60s show and kind of brought it back, even though it's animated. It obviously that's the only way you can have Adam West back as Batman, but he hasn't lost it. And you have Burt Ward back as Robin, so I mean, it's priceless that they've managed to go that route.
Holy hand grenades in hell, Batman!
I know, but
Holy rusted metal, Batman! Huh?
Yeah,
it's funny because West has a blatant distaste for the darker tone and modern Batman, which I agree. It's a bias, but I can't disagree with him because it's gotten so dark. It's been difficult for most fans to follow or want to follow. He says, because his reaction to, because people were asking what his thought were to the title of the upcoming Batman movie, The Batman. He says, I'm not too sensitive. It's smart. It's simple. It certainly puts the focus on him as the Batman. But, he knows, as you folks and everyone knows, that I'm the classic Batman, so I don't give a damn. I think it's smart of him to call it the Batman. Which every Batman thinks they're Batman. Unless they're Kilmer and Clooney. They don't think they're Batman, but...
Well, come on. We all know that there's only one Batman besides Adam West.
This is Kevin Conroy. And I am the goddamn Batman.
He is. And Conroy is like the hands down Batman.
Oh yeah.
There's no trumping him. It's like Joker.
No beauty. Just the Beast.
Well, that was just a bad movie altogether. He even says it. He's like, I'm sorry.
I let Joel Schumacher talk me into this, and what the hell was I thinking?
See, Keaton was smart. He got out.
Yeah.
Well, that sure made us LOL. Laugh out loud? No, lose our lunch.
Not really all that much else. I mean, there's that was majority of what I had between everything. Besides the fact that season 3 of Transformers: Robots in Disguise is going to have Combiner Force, and they're going to have a. Oh, that happened in season 2. No, they dumped him back in the Shadow Zone in season 2.
But I will ask one question here for you guys. Have either of you seen the Tuesday night's episode of The Flash?
Yes.
Okay. All I'll say is Flashpoint. That's it.
We can briefly talk about it here. That's fine.
I was very impressed to see, obviously we all kind of knew that Wally West was going to become Kid Flash. That's not a surprise. My wife kind of went, whoa, Wally is the Flash? And I was like, where have you been, hon? I had to explain that to her, and I'm like, yeah, Wally was the Flash from, like, Silver Age comics. Okay, he's been Kid Flash, and, there's that whole joke that was going on with them calling him Kid Flash. He goes, no, I'm the Flash. You're Kid Flash. And the yellow suit was perfect for that.
Yeah, I think that was perfect. And then you got the rival who I was like, I didn't even know who he was to begin with. I had to do research on it, but like before, when we started getting the teaser bits, I was like, oh, he's going to be a knockoff of like Zoom, and and it was nice to see Reverse Flash kind of playing a part in this, and he's like, I get to be the hero.
Yeah.
Because Barry was being a bonehead, and I like how you're going to have like a lot of speedsters in this series. Like you're going to have Jesse, you're going to have, you're going to have Jay.
Oh God, I was so glad that they've got the original Jay Garrick type Flash in there.
I know. I love that they have the original Flash from the 90s playing Jay Garrick, which I was hoping for.
I was kind of hoping that would happen, but even then, just having, the helmet and the red suit from, the original Flash, I was like, oh my God, this is so nice. I love this.
And I like that he's going to be the one giving Barry a pep talk because Barry screwed up everybody's lives.
Yeah.
Multiple times. Like the thing with Iris by the end, and then like the teasers, they've got, the Killer Frost setting in. They've got the thing with Cisco's brother.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering if they're going to fix parts of those things. And then in doing so, like, that's when Jay's like, hey, you got to stop it.
Please let Flashpoint fix Arrow, because Arrow is so broken to me at this point.
It's supposed to. Actually, funny you should say that. The season premiere of Arrow, let me get this out, they had a huge decline in ratings. I watched it online earlier today because I wanted to check it out. It wasn't really that great. The show was down 36% from the premiere of season 4.
Ouch.
Season 4, I didn't like at all. I will say that. Yeah, I think it progressively went down the toilet. But the season, this first episode wasn't nearly as bad as those. But I know that they're planning on changing Diggle. A lot to do with Diggle. I think they're going to revive Laurel with Flashpoint. I know she's going to be in Legends.
I can't wait until Legends and the whole Flashpoint and everything else fixes friggin' Arrow. Because Arrow's just a nightmare. As I've said before in this show and other shows, Season 1, Season 2 of Arrow are excellent, amazing, great, absolutely great, wonderful. Arrow Season 3 was a complete Batman rip. That's all it is. And Season 4 I thought was going to be better, but so far, after only watching the first episode of Season 5, they have Ice Cube wannabe as the main villain in the first premiere of the... What? So yeah, Flashpoint better do stuff, major stuff, to fix the downhill spiral that is friggin' Arrow.
Tell us how you really feel.
And that's something else that kind of floors me is that when you look at DC and you look at Marvel, why the hell can't Marvel do for their television series what DC is doing, and vice versa for DC and movies for DC? They've done some bad things, and well, you know that Luke Cage shows up in Jessica Jones, right? I'm not telling you anything that's not a surprise, because Luke Cage and Jessica Jones have they have a relationship in the comics. So not yet. I am trying to get Jessica Jones finished before, because I'm worried there's going to be some sort of crossovers or something like that. So
yeah, I think we'll just leave it there for the episode. I don't really have anything else. I'm not a Marvel television fan. I actually quit watching Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I watched the first episode just to see what they did with Ghost Rider. I enjoyed that, but I have no...
Welcome to the Wicked Radio Network.
Want to interact with the show? You can contact us in the following ways. You can call the voicemail line, 502-526-5821. You can email us, feedback@geekcastradio.com. You can visit the episode post on geekcastradio.com or alteredgeek.com. You can get a hold of us on Twitter @alteredgeek. Look for us every week on geekcastradio.com, of course, Stitcher Smart Radio, iTunes, Blog Talk Radio, and alteredgeek.com. And now, back to the show.
You can find me over at mygenerationpodcast.com. You can check out all of our episodes going back for over 2 years here. Actually, I want to say we've come up on 3 years now. Yeah, so go ahead and check us out over there. You can listen to all sorts of stuff where we talk about Top Gun. We talk about, we talk about Animaniacs. We talk about all sorts of stuff. So go out and check us out there at mygenerationpodcast.com.
And I'm Steve Megatron Phillips on the Twitters @SCP21. So until next time, get altered, get geeky with the Altered Geeks.
Joe Kramer here, composer from Mission Impossible Rogue Nation. This podcast from the Geekcast Radio Network will self-destruct in 5 seconds.